Differences between Spain and Trinidad and Tobago. I think when I think about it, it's not that different, and that's gonna shock a lot of people. That's gonna shock a lot of people. On today's episode, I'm gonna be talking about what it's like to be living in Spain as somebody from Trinidad and Tobago. You're watching Fi Di Kulcha on CharisMaggietv.
You know we do it for the culture. You know we do it for the culture.
What up, everyone? CharisMaggie here, and welcome back to another episode of Fi Di Kulcha. Now, today I'm here with Aneakaleigh.
Hi.
Did I say that correct?
You got it right, yeah.
Okay. I'm always sweating when I have to pronounce names. And she is all the way in Spain. So thank you so much for doing this video with me and accommodating me. And for my audience, this is a very exciting video because Aneakaleigh is actually in Spain right now, but she's originally from Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm very curious to know what even, led you to want to move there, what it's been like and things like that. So we're basically just going to jump right into the video. So
let's go.
My dear, what took you, what overcame you to be like, I'm gonna move to Spain? Like, as a Caribbean person, I think everyone's options is usually Canada and the US, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
So what inspired you to say, I'm gonna do something different and I'm gonna go to Spain?
Yeah. That's a really interesting question because I never had that thought that I'm gonna move to Spain. My move to Spain was just what do you call it? A domino effect. So I first moved from Trinidad and Tobago to Colombia, and I taught English there. So I'm an English teacher. I teach English in Spanish-speaking countries. That's been like my career since I graduated the UE. And so I was there in Colombia. I was teaching English there in a small city called Sincelejo. And at the end of that year, it was a bunch of us Caribbean people like in Colombia at that time doing that program again through the UE. And so we were there and we were like, oh my gosh, we don't want to go home. Like, what do we do? And one of us found a program, which is called the Beta program. And we all applied and we all pretty much got accepted and we all moved to Spain. So it was just like the next step for us. I personally never thought that I would live in Spain. And so that's just how it worked out. Like, I didn't choose Spain, like.
Oh, that's so cool. So there was really a community component there, and everyone pretty much just decided, okay, let's take this dive together.
Right. Everyone decided we don't want to go home.
Okay. Well, good. At least you had some company. All right, cool. Mm-hmm. What was the difference then? So you were in Colombia for how long were you in Colombia for?
A total of 2 years. But
2 years, okay.
2 years, yeah.
Got you. Okay. So with moving from Trinidad to Colombia and then from Colombia to Spain, any big culture shock that you experience?
Absolutely. I think culture shock is one of the things that you're always going to get in travel and in moving abroad, because you can do all of the research, you can try to prepare yourself, you can ask all of the questions people who've lived there before, but it's a unique experience because you are different, right? You're different to them, so showing up in Colombia, one of the things that, was just really different to me off the bat is it's a city. We stayed in Bogota that first time, and Bogota is a city of 8 million plus people.
Oh, wow.
Trinidad and Tobago is a country of 1.3 million people.
Yeah, big difference. Yeah,
just that in and of itself is just like the distance you have to travel, the transportation system that you have to get used to. I'd been studying Spanish at that point for since I was 11 years old. I moved to Colombia, I think the first time when I was 21. So it had been 10 years and I was doing my degree in Spanish. And so I knew the language, but of course there was still a shock in that because you're at school, you're learning textbook Spanish, so to speak. And then in the street, it's a different kind of Spanish. So there in and of itself, there's a culture shock as well. So yeah, and then even if you want to continue that, now I live in Spain. A lot of the Spanish that I spoke when I first moved here was Colombian Spanish, was a kind of Latino Spanish. And so here in Spain, they differentiate between Spanish and Castellano, right? So here they speak Castellano. which is like the Queen's English. Like, we speak English, Queen's English. So
Oh,
here we speak Castellano, and there they speak Spanish. So it's like there's there's a lot of things going on at like a cultural level, at a language level, at so many levels. Like culture shock is unavoidable, and we could talk about this for the entire show.
oh my goodness, like that's really interesting that you mentioned, like in terms of language, like even in that you had to even adjust and shift in that way. So with maneuvering all of that and like how you got to adjust, was there any kind of like similarities, even though the countries were so different? Was there any similarities that maybe helped you in adjusting, or how did you even adjust to this new environment?
Community is one of the most important things. Yeah. And I think I was very lucky. I've been very lucky that every time I've moved abroad, I've always had a startup community, so to speak. So I was moved with people that I already knew. I was moved with people I was already familiar with. So there wasn't that big of a difference of like a culture shock at that level wasn't that big because I was surrounded by people that I knew. And that grounds you because there's so much going on around you that you have to like quickly learn and quickly pick up on, quickly adjust to. So I definitely have to say community, like finding and building community and just like being able to be vulnerable in that community and show up and be like, hey, this thing is stressing me out. This thing is not working. I don't understand this thing. Because like a lot of the times you don't want to come across as I don't know what I'm doing, but you don't know. You don't know. Right? You just don't know.
You don't know.
You're not supposed to know. You're supposed to ask questions. You're supposed to ask for help. You're supposed to lean on others. And so I think like it's hard if you don't have a community established and you have to create that community. Then you're doing like two things at the same time, building a community and showing up vulnerably. But if I already know these people, which I have had in my experience, I already know these people, then I'm able to just like dive into the vulnerability part of it and get that support, So I think I don't remember what the question was, but therein lies the answer: community.
Wow. Yeah, that's very important. I hope everyone's listening because a lot of us, we kind of live in a world right now where I think slowly but surely sometimes we kind of lose that aspect of community and it's everyone for themselves. And it's like, no, boo, even the most successful corporate companies out there, they need a team. That's what helps them to be successful. So never forget that, y'all. Community, very important.
Yes, super important.
So what are some key differences then, apart from, I guess you mentioned the amount of people who are in a city compared to the population of the entire country of Trinidad and Tobago? What are some key differences that you can say you can identify with living in Spain versus Trinidad and Tobago?
Differences between Spain and Trinidad and Tobago. I think when I think about it, it's not that different. And that's going to shock a lot of people. That's going to shock a lot of people. If you ask Northern Europeans, because Spain is, on the southernmost side of Europe. If you ask Northern Europeans, Spain is kind of like, I would say, and I say this lovingly, I'm not saying this in any way, it's like the Caribbean of Europe. Right? It's like here is chill, here is relaxed, there's not a lot of pressure, it's very no pasa nada, which means, it's like, what does no pasa nada mean? Like we say it all the time, no pasa nada.
Is it like no stress?
Yeah,
it's like, good.
Don't worry about it. Like,
Okay. No pasa nada. Okay.
Yeah, it's like, don't worry about it. Everything, like you could be stressing out about your house burning down and your neighbor will be like, no pasa nada. Like, like, what do you mean? My house is on fire. Like, that's a very over-exaggerated example, but no, that is like the slogan of Spain when I think about it. And yeah, it's like really chilled, really relaxed. And I say that, so in some ways, like culturally, it's not that different. I'm like, wow, do we really get it like from them? Because Trinidad was like originally colonized by the Spanish, but that was like many, many moons ago. And they rarely even did anything with Trinidad as a colony. So to think that there are still so many similarities is interesting. And Spain in and of itself is what I would call a young country Like, yes, they colonized a lot of the world. Like, Christopher Columbus, quote unquote, found all these places. But then Franco happened. And if you know the history of Spain, Francisco Franco, he was like a general and he was a dictator for, I think, about 75 years here. So while a lot of the world was moving forward, Spain was stuck in this kind of like time capsule, right?
Okay. Wow, I did not know that.
But yeah, I think maybe like 40 years or so is when he died and when the dictatorship fell and when Spain like became a country that could like, you know, interact with the world like that. So if you think about it that way, I think that they're like 40 some years old. And so a lot of it is very similar in terms of like developmental levels, like as with us in the Caribbean, like bureaucracy here is a nightmare. Like, do not show up to any government office after 12 o'clock. You're not going to get nothing done. You're going to get nothing done. Forget it, right?
Yeah.
And then these online systems that you can do things, you're like, oh, you could do this online, but it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare to even like try to get it done online. Like, they've made it very complicated for you to be able to do it online. So you have to show up and keep the public sector workers like on the like, you know, I'll never forget, I went with my friends to like government offices close here at 2 o'clock on the dot. And I remember I went with my friend to an office. It was after 12 actually, but the appointment was after 12. So she shows up, whatever, and I was waiting outside. And I swear to you, 2 o'clock on the dot, people just started like flooding out of the building. And I was like, what is going on? Is there a fire? And then I checked my watch and I was like, oh, it's 2 o'clock. And then when she came out, she was like, girl, at 1:45, the computer shut off. Like, she didn't, the woman didn't turn off the computer, it shut off because it was like time to go. I was like, what?
Wow. The discipline.
The discipline with not doing anything after
past the
past that time is like work done. And I was like, oh, that is such a Trinidad thing. Yes, it's like clock out, time to go.
Wow.
Yeah, a customer, nope, not my problem. It's 1:45, gotta go. Like, you know. In that way, a lot of similarities. But of course, on the other side, there's so many differences because you live in Europe. And it's like, you know, this mecca of like history and this mecca of culture. And like you go around and like you see so many old buildings. That's the best way I can describe them. So many old buildings with so much history and all these cobblestone streets. And it's just like the way that people live here as well. I think we like to think that we're very relaxed in the Caribbean, but it's a different kind of relaxed here. It's a very enjoy, and I think it's still the same. I think it's different, but it's the same when I really think about it. It's a very enjoy life kind of way. So Spanish people have this thing that you call sobremesa, and it's like dessert, but like you spend 3 hours after you finish eating your main food, just talking.
Oh, sounds very familiar. Wow.
Just talking and drinking and smoking. That's all they do. Talk, drink, smoke. Like, and you know, I will never forget like being super shocked when I first like moved to Madrid and they take the children to the bars. Of course, the children not drinking anything, but the children running around in the bar. And I was like, what?
Wow. That's different.
Why is this happening? Right? I've never been to a bar with children running around, but like in my neighborhood, for example, like the bars, you know, the kids would be there. Like, 'cause, I mean, where they're gonna stay? Who they're gonna be with? I don't think they don't really have a culture of like babysitters here.
Babysitters, right? Yeah, true. Okay, wow.
Grandpa take care of them, and of course, grandma and grandpa not staying home. They're going by the bar too, because they're very into family here. It's a very cohesive unit. Like we all move as one, and yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I guess in terms of food, then you haven't been too homesick. Has it been fine with you getting more or less anything that you need? If you're feeling a bit homesick, it can quickly get a quick fix.
I mean, I can because I always walk with my spices. Right?
Yeah, smart girl, smart girl.
I can cook up a storm. I can make my curry, my pela, whatever. The only thing that I go to a restaurant for that's Spanish and I enjoy it is the paella. And a seafood paella, of course. But paella is no different from a pilau. I think
so it's very similar.
Every culture has a rice dish. Like I saw Yeah, I saw a tweet the other day and it was like Asian jollof be slapping, and it's like fried rice with shrimp. And
Honestly, though.
I was like, yeah, every culture has a unique rice dish. We
Yeah.
have pilau, here they have paella.
So I guess as we wrap up, the last question I would ask is anyone who is thinking about, moving to a different part of the world and it's not necessarily the US or Canada, like what kind of advice would you give them?
The most important piece of advice is to have an open mind. Have an open mind. I'm a very flexible person, and I'm one of those people who shows up and I'm ready to just like go with the flow. I rarely do research, and like I've been living here for 4 years. When I first moved here, the only thing that I looked up was the transportation system because it's a headache. Transportation systems are always a headache, right? But in terms of like culture and like how people behave and that kind of thing, again, like I said in the beginning, like you can ask people for their experiences. Like, yes, also reach out to people, get their experiences, but also still have an open mind about what you are going to experience. Yeah, just because it happened one way for somebody else doesn't mean it's gonna happen the same way for you, good or bad, right?
Mm,
It's all about how you show up and what you are willing to experience and what you want to take away from the situation, and not so much how it is, right? Because how it
mhm.
is subjective to how you view it and how you are showing up. So that's really my advice around that.
Awesome. Great advice. I hope y'all are keeping notes once everything is back to some kind of normalcy and we can travel and all of that, These are definitely things to think about. And thank you again so much for doing this video with me. It was very much insightful and I loved hearing your perspective. And I hope that the rest of you who are watching, anything that you want to comment below, if you have been to Spain yourself and you want to share your experience, share it with us. I want to hear. She wants to hear. So let us know. And I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to do road and the things. And until next time, Maggie is out.
Bye.
If you love that video, then you will love the rest of the videos in the Fi Di Kulcha series. So click here to watch now and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to support us with a little extra, then you can support us by becoming a Patreon and click the link in the description box. Thanks for watching.